I'd like to call to order the June 19th, 2018 meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Good morning. Supervisors Cerna?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Frost? Here. Natoli?
Here.
Peters?
Here.
And you have a quorum. This meeting of the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. The meeting is closed caption and is webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will be repeated Friday, June 22nd at 6 p.m. on Channel 14. A DVD copy is available for checkout from any local library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address the board may fill out a speaker slip and hand it to staff. When the chair calls your name, please come to the podium. Please also silence your electronic devices at this time.
Hey, would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Okay, so you have two off-agenda items and consent matters 1 through 73 for consideration. I do need a motion to determine the necessity to hear items off-agenda 1 and 2. Both are communication received and filed items reporting the following. Supervisor Don Natoli traveled to Austin, Texas on June 13th, 2018 related to county business, and Supervisor Patrick Kennedy traveled to Washington, D.C. from June 10th to June 13th related to county business as a delegate of the Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency.
Okay. I got a motion. I hear a second? Okay, thank you. Please vote.
Unanimous vote.
Okay, does anyone wish to?
I do have further notes.
Oh, okay.
For your consent matters 1 through 73, I do need to hold item number 6. This is the 3-year labor agreements with 11 bargaining units. And then I do need a motion to drop item number 19. It's the Sacramento International Airport Economy Lots 42 and 43 improvement, bids to be received on July 26, 2018.
Please vote.
Unanimous vote. And then item 54, I need a motion to drop. It's the proposed Watt and El Camino Property and Business Improvement District.
So moved. Please vote.
Unanimous vote.
I already did. Now, Mr. Natoli, anything?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. Just a couple of items, if I could. Items 37 and item 50, you want to call 37? So,
Item 37?
You need clarification, yes.
All right. Just 1 second. Item 37, authority to enter into an agreement with South County Services Incorporated in the amount of $162,520 to provide safety net services in the most southern portion of Sacramento County for the term of July 1 through June 30th.
Okay. Just a clarification on this. Over the past 2.5 years, we've gone out to request for proposal 3 times, and my understanding was that this was going to, if awarded, was going to be a 3-year term. My understanding from the information provided, although it wasn't clear in the staff report, it was in the resolution that this was going to be a 1-year with potential for 2-year renewals. And I think we sufficiently have scoured the marketplace for these services that are safety net services to folks. So I just wanted to ask the county executive, I've talked to Nav about this. It's our intent to, assuming contract obligations are met, to have a 3-year contract. Is that correct? Okay. That's all I need for that item. And
okay.
then item 50. Please.
Item 50. Item 50, approve agreement to provide animal care and regulation services to the city of Galt.
Yes, the question I have here was that in briefing yesterday that we're negotiating to continue providing services to the city of Galt. We have an arrangement where obviously their folks, by virtue of what's reported in here in the report, the Galt Police Department does a good deal of the field services there, not entirely, but they have some holding facilities for both dogs and cats and do their best to try to connect owners with stray animals and reunite them before they come into the county system. In this contract, though, it's not included, and I know that a couple of years ago we had at least one community event, maybe two, where the availability of the Batmobile, the spay-neuter mobile van, and some of the educational as well as other material, and as well as adoptive pets are made available in a community setting. There's no provision for that. My understanding was we charge extra. I think that's a service that, bless you, a service that we ought to at least provide maybe one or two opportunities under the contract annually, whether they take advantage of that or not. I haven't talked with the city manager nor the police chief, but it seems to make good sense, something that we do with our unincorporated communities, and I think it ought to be built into here at no charge. And so that was my proposal, is that we make sure we make it available to them in the event that they request it, maybe on up to 2 occasions a year for services.
If the board would delegate that to my position, I can then talk to the city manager, have Dave Dickinson reach out and amend the contract for at least two visits.
Up to 2 community events.
Up to 2.
Yeah.
That's fine with me.
Okay, all right, good. That would be the direction. That's all. Thanks.
Ask the clerk if she got that.
I'm sorry?
Did you get that?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Anything, Ms. Frost? Okay. Mr. Cerna?
Thank you. Yeah, I have a question and comment on item 52.
Item 52 is the Main Jail Replace Roofing System, final contract acceptance.
Thank you. So this is seems to be an ongoing frustrating project. This is not an incidental change order in my estimate. When you see something in excess of $700,000 for what should be a somewhat uneventful replacement of one of the systems affecting our main jail. And I know there's a detailed justification memo that comes with the board letter. In that justification, it states that the slope of the roof, I believe, is what has adversely affected the ability to replace the roof membrane at much less cost. So my question is, what got missed here in terms of looking at as-built once the jail was completed? How did this surprise us to the tune of, what is it, in excess, like I said, in excess of $700,000? It seems to me that as a matter of routine practice, we document, file our as-built on anything we do. So I want to know what was missed.
Good morning. I'm Mike Morris with the Department of General Services, and on behalf of the Architectural Services Division, I don't know, I can give you a fully technical response, but I asked that same question. It was not fully clear in the as-built of what that slope was, or maybe better said, what was shown on the as-built was not what we found when we opened up the roof. So in trying to determine in the number of different options of the type of roofing that we wanted to put on there, and we opted for the SBS option that was going to save us some money in the long run. And once we opened up the roof and discovered that the slope was not what we expected, that option was no longer available to us, and we had to reassess. So
my understanding is that the slope of the roof is it's a warranty question?
Yes. Okay,
so we knew that, I assume we knew that when the original roof was completed, that the slope is going to be a very important factor in making sure that the warranty stays intact.
I would assume so.
Let me rephrase it. Is there anyone in your office that, as a matter of practice, looks at any time we have a warranted element of construction, what the critical components of construction are that affect either warranty being intact or not?
And all of those factors are considered when they're trying to determine what the best application will be. And with what they knew of the systems that were in place and looking at the different options, that's how they came to the decision of the SPS system that they originally put in the specification. Again, once they opened up that roof and started to examine it, it was not as they expected it to be. And
I understand all that, but that doesn't really make me feel any better in terms of it was missed. That's a fact. Something was missed. And we're talking about almost 30% change order. You know, we see somewhat routine basis change orders in the range of 5, 10, sometimes 15%, but when we start getting into 30% change order amounts, alarm bells go off for me. So I'm not happy about this, and if there is something that we can quite honestly look back and learn from this lesson that needs to change in terms of our protocols and how we document very clearly what is warranted and what is not, and what are the triggers that keep warranties intact. Maybe it's time that we take inventory of that and maybe do a better job of it.
understood.
Absolutely, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, could I just comment on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think one of the things too is that hopefully we don't have to redo this work for another 30 years, but I would just say that then somebody ought to make good record of what we know now is in place as built, and you know whether those records are retained for the purpose of somebody who would have to do this, you know, 2 or 3 decades from now, I don't know. But I think that's important because, again, the lesson learned here obviously was an expensive one and need to be done right. But I guess I would suggest that wherever that repository is for that information, that now there's clear understanding about that roof, how it was constructed, deconstructed, and reconstructed. And so I guess I would just suggest, Mike, that wherever those information is, there ought to be a big asterisk somewhere so somebody can pull it up. You know, the next generation of architects and re-roofers will have that available information to them. So
Most assuredly, yeah. We always try to make sure our as-builts are updated when we go do these projects. So in 30 years, Mr. Penrose can talk to that if that comes up.
right. Okay. All right.
For 30?
Okay. Thanks. That's all.
Anything else? Okay. Madam Clerk, I'd like the record to reflect I'm recusing myself on item 35 due to a business conflict. Okay. And then I'd also like to point out item 47 is a P-bid item for 80 Watt, and they are funding a license plate reader to address crime in that area, and they're loaning it to the Sheriff's Department. So the P-bid has already helped drop crime significantly in that area, and I think this will help not only the P-bid area, but the entirety of North Highlands. Thank you. So we need a motion. Anyone like to second? Second. Please vote.
Unanimous vote, and let the record reflect that this is with the exception of item 6.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I had Karen Klinger wants to comment on item 58.
Oh, okay.
I don't see her here. Oh, there she is. You're not in your usual red, Ms. Klinger. I had trouble finding you.
And is 58 the...
CSA.
Oh, CSA.
Item 58, receive and file engineers and written reports for fiscal year 2018-19, designating July 17th for a public hearing and direct staff to provide notice for County Service Area 1.
I just wanted to check to make sure that the rate for 2018-2019 remains the same that it was for 2017-18. Just because it's shown here, I just wanted to confirm that amount because that goes on all of our property tax bills. And if you drop one line below, from $256 you go down to $17. I just wanted to make sure that
it's the same rate as 1996, Karen. It hasn't changed in all those years.
Just wanted to confirm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and you're staying for 82, so I understand, you mark 82, which is a hearing item.
It is the hearing item.
This afternoon.
Do you want me to wait for that?
Yeah.
It's not on consent.
I know it isn't. Thank you.
Just checking to make sure you understood that. Thank you. Okay, then I have one off-agenda speaker, Steve Barnett. Before you start, I read your comments. I'd like to point out that this is part of the family law courts, and we can't comment on it. It's in their purview.
Nope, I was not expecting any comment. I, more than anything else, was just letting the board know about an issue that's really affecting many citizens in
We have a 3-minute limit.
in the county. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair Peters, Vice Chair Kennedy, and supervisors. I would like to speak about an issue that I believe in the background you may have looked at a little bit. I'm sure you're familiar with the case of Callie Anderson, who was found in a Sacramento storage locker last month. She was found dead, and that came about partially because the Solano County Superior Court awarded sole custody to her father despite his crack cocaine addiction. Sadly, the Family Law Division of Sacramento Superior Court often does the same thing, where it puts our children into the arms of abusive parents much too often. This court is rife with mediators who are often biased to one side, and special masters who start with a bias in favor of recommending treatments that they are then paid to offer to the people in the case. When you get a smog check on your car, we have something in place in the state where the garage doing the testing is not allowed to then affect the repairs. But apparently this conflict of interest doesn't hold in assessing and helping our children in the court system. The conflict of interest is rabid in the Superior Court system. So this is all overseen by judges that are admittedly overworked, but they also come in with biases and also on occasion will render decisions in violation of state law. So one common tactic that's brought about in the court is parental alienation, where an abusive parent will allege that the other parent has brainwashed the kids to hate them. Yet in over 95% of cases, the abuse is shown to be real, but too often the Sacramento County court system allows the abusive parent to gain custody on the basis of, again, these same experts that then are paid to treat this parental alienation that really wasn't there to start with. So, I mean, I live in Elk Grove, and I've got a good friend and loving mother who lost her children to an abuser of this type. He used his experience working for the California Department of Justice to manipulate the courts, and now the children are isolated from their friends and the family, and if they don't profess adoration for him, he takes away their food, takes away their beds. Yes, I know it's a CPS issue, and CPS has been called, but obviously CPS is overworked as well. So it should be a simple decision to want to advocate for these abused children. And I wish I could tell you that this is the only case, but there are many, many cases out there within Sacramento County, very similar, where kids are put in the hands of abusers by the court system. So I ask that you work with us in helping protect these abused children. It's not just an issue in Sacramento County. This is an issue in all of the family law courts throughout the state, and we do feel it's a state issue to try and address this issue and solve this issue. So I ask for your help, because your voice is going to be stronger with the state compared to someone like me or for others of us that are trying to work on this. So, because we really need to improve the protections that are for these abused children. So I'm sure you'd agree that these children deserve it, and hopefully we can avoid another tragedy such as what happened with Callie Anderson. So thank you very much.
Thank you for comments. As I mentioned, it's in the purview of the courts, so we have no authority there. Mr. Natoli?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just would note that I have spoken with Steve, and I know that some of the information that he has forwarded certainly has been shared with County Council and with County Executive's Office, and I, although not exactly parallel in the regard that Mr. Barnett addresses this morning, there are others who I know after the summer break are going to be asking, certainly through the exec's office and to their chair, to address this board on similar but not exactly parallel matters as relates to both the judicial system as it relates to families, but also to, I think, some of the preparation that goes into bringing those matters before the courts, which, again, we do have a role in that. And I think that's where the county connectivity is that we are oftentimes called upon through either Child Protective Services, through social workers, through other folks that have expertise in the child welfare and children's courts are the ones that prepare that information. And I know that I continue to hear from folks about their concerns, and there will be folks that will want to address this off agenda. Probably, certainly keep you posted, Mr. Barnett. I know you've been in touch with my office when that comes forward, and they're going to ask for at least 15 minutes to I think, cite some similar concerns that are related. So appreciate your advocacy, and I know that you've shared with me some of the details of the other case. And although we may not be able to impact it directly, I think the broader point that you make is one that there are some things that need to be addressed, certainly locally, but statewide. So.
Great. Thank you very
you.
much.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item 74, presentation of resolution honoring D'Angelo Lavelle Humphrey for the unselfish act of life-saving.
I'm doing fine, yourself.
Good. Jack, coming out here too. I'm gonna say a few words if that's okay, sir. So I'm very, very honored to be here today to honor D'Angelo Humphrey, and I'm going to read the entire resolution because it's that important and that impressive. Whereas on June 19, 2018, the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors honors D'Angelo Lavelle Humphrey on his unselfish act in rescuing a swimmer in distress on the American River. And whereas on May 13, 2018, Mr. Humphrey was fishing with his wife in the area of the Sunrise Boat Launch within the American River Parkway. While fishing, Mr. Humphrey observed a male adult swimming in the American River without a life jacket, which we frown upon, by the way, for a period of time. The subject was observed swimming out toward the old Fair Oaks Bridge, the boat launch area, and in the middle of the American River. And whereas Mr. Humphrey observed the male subject to be in distress as he was attempting to swim to shore from the middle portion of the American River, the distressed swimmer had submerged and come to the surface 3 times, gasping for air. Mr. Humphrey then unselfishly jumped into the American River in an effort to rescue the swimmer from potential drowning. Whereas Mr. Humphrey got to the distressed swimmer, the subject pulled himself and Mr. Humphrey underwater. Mr. Humphrey managed to get into a position to get himself and the distressed swimmer to the surface of the river. Mr. Humphrey was then able to get himself and the distressed swimmer to shore, where he received medical attention. Due to Mr. Humphrey's swift action, the swimmer survived this near-drowning event. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors, the County of Sacramento, State of California, does hereby recognize D'Angelo Lavelle Humphrey for his unselfish act of saving the life of a fellow citizen who was in peril. Passed and adopted this day of June 19th, 2018. Thank you, sir, for
I would like to thank everybody. I've never been in this position before. I'd like to thank everybody that's here, that came to support me, my loved ones, family, friends. That was just a regular day out fishing for me. And wasn't expecting to have to do anything like that. But my only thought was it was Mother's Day. And I don't think anyone should lose their child on Mother's Day. My wife and I looked at each other at that point. It was, are you going in or am I? I knew I wasn't letting her go, so I went. Before she knew it, I was down the bank and in the water. And it went from there. I got to meet a lot of great people and rangers that day. First aid and everybody. There was a lot of folks that were there that gave me recognition for it. I'm just a regular guy and just wanted to do something to help somebody else for a change. So I appreciate it and thank you very much.
Truly an unselfish act. Is your wife here? Would she like to get her picture taken?
Yeah,
Come on.
He's more than a regular guy. He's royal family.
Yes, he's all day.
Close. Nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey. Next item, please.
Item 75, invitation to the Board of Supervisors to attend the 2018 California State Fair.
Well, welcome.
Good morning. Rick Pickering, CEO of your California State Fair. Honorable Chair Peters, distinguished members of the board, County Executive Gill, and the entire talented staff at the County of Sacramento, thank you for your ongoing dedicated service to the community and your support of your California State Fair. It's certainly our honor and privilege to be able to present the 2018 California State Fair, which is July 13th through 29th. Of the 58 counties in California, of which Sacramento was one of the very first counties established, of 58 counties, we documented that 56 counties participated in competing in the state fair last summer. And we're trying to get Trinity and Alpine so we can make it a full 58. Life's big adventure this year at the state fair will be showcasing jobs and careers tied to agriculture. That's building upon the wonderful salute we did last year celebrating the contributions of farm workers in the state of California. We're also doing a special tribute to how California helped feed the world. So we're excited about that. And in keeping with creating something new, and for the first time, we're creating the first of its kind statewide California Youth Mariachi Competition. Mariachi in California has a long history. In fact, before many of us enjoyed other types of music, mariachi music was already here. So we're doing a showcase. We've handpicked 10 teams from around the state, all the way down from Imperial up through the Central Valley here in the Sacramento region. They will be coming to town. They'll have an opportunity to practice at Sacramento State, tour the Capitol while they're in town with their families, and then all 10 teams after the competition will have the opportunity to be on stage and do 2 songs with Mariachi Vargas. Mariachi Vargas is one of the most renowned mariachi organizations in the entire world, highly sought after. So we're excited about that as a first of its kind as well. Last year we started the very first Out at the State Fair program supported by local LGBTQ and statewide community. We're also able to help get that into the New Mexico State Fair, which followed on our heels. So we're happy to have that back, which will be our closing Sunday, July 29th. 3 exciting weeks of horse racing. We're also creating a new program in order to help put food in the food banks, but it's a free before 3 on the 2 Mondays of the California State Fair. So if people bring 3 non-perishable food items to the admission gates between opening and 3 o'clock, they'll be donated to the local food banks, and they'll get into the State Fair for free in exchange for food. We think it's a great program. After 10 years of holding our admission rates the same, and you've talked about a number of years here today on different projects, so we've been honored to be able to hold admission rates free or flat for the last 10 years. We have a slight increase this year. We believe the public will understand that the cost of doing business, utilities, fuel, labor, et cetera, does take a little bit more to host 800,000 people coming to your house over the 17 days. We have small gift bags for you that include a number of items specific to your state fair. Typically when I'm here, I'm asked to very quickly run through kind of some of the top tier concerts that we'll have this summer. During the state fair, ZZ Top, if you like that end of the extreme, and Kids Bops, if you're on the other end of the extreme. Big Country, Trace Atkins, Young Country, Easton Corbin, UB40 will be here on our Out at the Fair Day. For R&B, we have Kool and the Gang, Spinners, Confunction. We've mentioned Mariachi Vargas. A little retro with Night Ranger, Los Lonely Boys, War, Berlin with Terry Nunn. Sugar Ray will be joining us, and then we have 3 tribute bands. We have a Beatles tribute band, Queen Nation, and a Happy Together tour, as well as a Sac Republic game. So things are continuing to come together for your state fair. We certainly couldn't do the state fair without the support of the local counties, the counties around us in the region, and those 56 other counties that competed last year. Thank you for your support, all the great things you do, and we look forward to seeing you out at your state fair.
Yeah, well, good luck to you. I hope your attendance goes up and the weather stays under 100, so you get a big turnout.
But I'm usually asked by elected bodies, what can we do to help? If you could, however you may choose to pray, if you could pray for cool weather, and if you can control the weather, the future's great.
I'll take it under advisement. Thank you. Good luck.
Did you say that ZZ Top was opening for Kids Pop? Is that what you said?
No. It's the other way around.
It's the other way around? Okay.
Okay, item 77, or excuse me, item 76, presentation of resolution honoring Jeff Leatherman and thanking him for his service to the Sacramento County.
Hello. At least your last appearance in front of the board, you have multiple appearances here. Yeah. So this Jeff Leatherman, our Director of Regional Parks, and this is his last meeting, and we are definitely going to miss Jeff. He's been here 5 years? 6 years. He lasted that long through some trials and tribulations. The Parkway has undergone quite a change in the last few years, and I wanted to address several things in the resolution. Jeff is a highly effective leader that possesses a management style that fosters trust, commitment, and partnership. Jeff's knowledge, skills, positive outlook have gained the respect of parks employees, county staff, park stakeholders, and parks users. Under his direction, the Parks has successfully initiated several key projects, including the inclusion of Camp Pollock in the American River Parkway, numerous ordinance changes and additions to make regional parks facilities safer as well as cleaner for the public. And then there's a long list of things that have been created. Your Sacramento area parks, installation of parking pay station, the Life Looks Good on You River Safety Campaign, the opening of the Wilton Community Center, development of the Campfire Day Camp facilities, off-road paved trail cycling pilot program, the Cordova Creek Naturalization and Revitalization of Natural Resources Management Plan process, creation of the Visitor Service Team, and other things as assigned, I guess. I just want to say for everyone how much we've enjoyed having you here. I think you've really moved our Parks Department into the current century, and we will be the better for all your years of toil. And we wish you the best in Georgia, of all places. I don't think you could go any further. I don't know if that has anything to do with what's going on here, but I wanted to present you with this resolution and wave it flow. Okay. He's gone for a day and can't figure the camera out. You know? So
Don't get a day off.
yeah, I don't know if you'd like to make some comments or not, but I just really want to say we'll miss you.
Thank you so much. And to the board, I just want to thank you not only for the last 6 years, but for the opportunity just to recognize that service. My success here could not have been done without the team, not only of elected officials, but also from the county exec and my staff, as well as the community members, some of which are behind me from the foundation and Save the American River Association, our Delta communities, our North County communities. We have the opportunity as a department to reach out and touch just about every place across the county. And it has been a true honor and a blessing to have been here to serve the community. You know, we don't go easy. It's the relationships that I've made here mean a lot to me, including here with your board and with the staff and the community. So thank you. And you will always hold a place in my heart here in Sacramento, and I appreciate it very much.
Mr. Cerna.
A picture of all your fans.
We have some comments from the board here too. Mr. Cerna.
Okay, sorry. We'll take the picture here in a second. Go ahead.
So, Jeff, first of all, I want to say thank you. I think it's pretty obvious that District 1 has certainly had an eye towards doing what we can to buttress our staff and also our budget when it comes to the Lower American River Parkway, and as was mentioned by our chair, many of the accomplishments that are well recognized have to do with the improvement of that stretch of the parkway. Now, of course, you have a massive inventory, a massive job to not just take care of the American River Parkway, but everything that's in our parks inventory. But I just want to say, over the last 6 years working together, I know there have been times where you've seen my temper flare, you've seen my passion for the parkway in its rawest form. But at the same time, you've always been very willing, able to implement the will of this board, not just me and the district that I represent and the part of the parkway that runs through it, but the entire board. And that is to be commended. It's not something that everyone does well, but you've approached the job with tenacity, a passion, and a great sense of humor that will make you very, very missed here by everyone. I think your legacy is imprinted on especially the parkway, and I just want to thank you for your years of public service here, and I want to wish you well in your future in Georgia, and I know that they're going to benefit just as we have from your very focused attention on what parks mean to the public. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Natoli?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vice Chair. Jeff, I just wanted to add to comments that Supervisor Peters and Supervisor Cerna made and just express my deep appreciation for all of your work. You're a true professional, and whether it was the Sherman Island Fishing Access or Hogback Island or McFarland Ranch or Wilton Community Center, Mather Park, certainly areas in the 5th District and many others, but throughout this county, you came, I think, with experience and expertise that really showed your maturity beyond your years as it relates to, I think, park management and resource allocation, and helped us rebuild. You came at a time when we still were reeling from the recession. Obviously, parks had taken, along with a lot of other county departments, but parks had taken some very deep cuts and had left the department, I think, fairly skimpy on resources, but also on staffing. And you've been able to, I think, working with this board and obviously the communities that we represent, to not only build the department back, but I think those relationships, as mentioned here, and the deep imprint, one that will be felt for generations to come. I think, and whether it's been the Parkway or some of the other things that Supervisor Peters mentioned and many others that you've been a part of, those are places and places for people to have experiences, positive experiences as individuals and families, and that will, those improvements that were made will be ones, I said, that'll be very lasting. And I want to just wish you well, you and Michelle and your children, all the best as you go to Roswell, Georgia. And if things ever get, you get all the things done you need to do there, you certainly welcome you back to this community because you've done a superb job, and really appreciate it again. Your willingness to take calls any time of the day or evening, I won't say night, but certainly and on weekends. And again, for your leadership and the goodwill. You've built a tremendous program here, and again, with support that you've had, but also you've been the leader in that regard. So congratulations, and thank you so much, and Godspeed to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Ms. Frost.
Jeff, I want to thank you for your vision and your wisdom, but especially want to thank you for your ability to manage under circumstances that sometimes were challenging, with a lot of challenges on the American River Parkway and opposing forces coming at you, managing all the groups that whose hearts are in it, and the dreams, we all have for what we all consider to be the jewel of the region. You were the one who was managing all that, and I know that your leadership is effective because I've heard that from other leaders in the region, groups in the region who have worked with you, who are sad to see you go, frankly, and not sure how we're going to replace you. So we know you'll be a hard act to follow, but and I heard Georgia is beautiful. I've never been there, but I wish you every happiness there. And,
Thank you.
And your family.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for all that you've done.
You bet.
And I refuse to say anything because, as I told you before, I'm not accepting your resignation.
Wouldn't expect anything different, sir.
Pictures?
Yeah, if I could just also invite the board down for a photo, I would really appreciate that as I take my steps out. And others. Diana, come on down, please.
Diana?
Yes. And staff.
All the parks people.
Yes, my parks people are here.
Hey, Jeff, can we present you with something real quick? Since okay, do the photo.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming down.
Just real quick. So, Jeff, on behalf of the American River Parkway Foundation, we would like to present you with a Parkway Steward shirt.
Perfect.
So you will never miss the Parkway.
Never.
Now, we don't want this to be used as a sleep shirt for one of your kids.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Well, how about a round of applause for him? Huh?
Madam Clerk. Item 77 is the resolution designating an underground utility district on Fair Oaks Boulevard from Angelina Avenue to Landis Avenue. The environmental determination is an environmental impact report.
Okay.
Good morning, Chair Peters, board members. My name is Melissa Wright. I'm Senior Civil Engineer for Department of Transportation, the county. The item before you today is for an undergrounding district for the next phase of the Fair Oaks Boulevard Phase 3 project. The district will be from Angelina Avenue north to Landis Avenue. The request today is to create the underground utility district as defined in Sacramento County Code, paragraph 12.20. This district will be a defined area of the county within which poles, overhead wires, and associated overhead structures are prohibited. We've done this on a couple other previous projects. The previous phase of the Fair Oaks project was done, and also Hazel Avenue. Just to give you a perspective of where we're talking about here on Fair Oaks Boulevard from Stanley Avenue north to Landis. So this underground district will continue to the south where the previous one ended with the previous phase of Fair Oaks. Some of the benefits of the underground utility district are improved corridor aesthetics. We have an economy of scale cost savings and minimized construction traffic impacts since we are including the undergrounding with the Fair Oaks Boulevard project. We have the potential of reimbursement of around $860,000. And that's a combined cash payments from AT&T and SMO along with the cost of their work to them and the other telephone companies. Another benefit is it prevents the placement of future poles and overhead wires. And we have a lot of public support for this. We've had a lot of commendation from the previous underground districts from the public. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions you may have.
I have a couple questions. I don't remember, but did we form an underground utility district on the other two phases of this improvement area?
On the first phase of Fair Oaks, no, because everything was already undergrounded. On the second phase, which was from Landis to Engle, yes, we created an underground district.
All right. Something I wish were on your bullet points is better coordination with the utilities and in shortening the amount of time it takes them all to get on board with the undergrounding. As many compliments as we've had from the Carmichael residents about how nice Phase 2 looks, there were as many criticisms of the lengthy time it took to get the utilities. I realize we don't control the utilities, but we need to inform them plenty of time and get their timeline and enforce the timeline, I think, so we don't have the road torn up, hopefully not through the winter again. That was the toughest part.
Yes. So we're working with the utility companies trying to foresee all design issues way ahead of the gate so that we can minimize any kind of impacts to the public.
Have you had any comments back from the utilities, or do they recognize the difficulties they're causing the projects?
I think they recognize. I don't know the level of care they take as we do. So they've been aware, they've been made aware of the problems that it has caused and the delays, and they're aware of the public complaining about the delays, so hopefully the next phase will go smoother.
Okay. All right. So any other questions? I'll move the item. Please vote. Oh, I need a second. Please vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unanimous vote. Okay, so our next item is item 78, and this is the public hearing on the benefit category change and levy of increased service charge for assessor's parcel number 249016072 at the southwest corner of Madison and Kenneth Avenues within Zone 1 of County Service Area Number 1.
Good morning. I'm Bob Davison, the Division Chief of the County Engineering Division. And County Service Area Number 1, as you know, is the maintenance mechanism for street and safety lights throughout the county. This is a benefit category change for one property, and this public hearing is to approve the benefit category change and to authorize an increased service charge. For this, we're working with one parcel, as the clerk mentioned, the Oakmont Senior Living Complex in Fair Oaks near Madison and Kenneth. And the change is from street and safety lights, which is a current rate that they're already in County Service Area Number 1 at, to enhanced street and safety lights, which allows the assessment to be increased with an inflation factor over time, which the current rates don't allow that. With that, the increased service charge for this property will be from $231 per year to $638 per year. So with that, I recommend that your board direct the clerk to tabulate the return protest ballot, and depending on the result of that ballot, take further action.
Thank you. You are so directed.
Okay, do I get a drum roll?
I think you'll be faster than the registrar on the most recent vote.
Okay. Okay, so this is a protest ballot from the legal owner of Oakmont of Fair Oaks, LLC. The site address is 8484 Madison Avenue, Fair Oaks, California. And we do have a yes vote in favor. So, do you want me to go ahead and read
So with that, I would recommend that your board adopt today's resolution, but I'll read in some of the blanks to be filled in. In Section 2, it should read that at the close of the hearing, the board had received 0 written protest. And Section 3 should read that at the close of the tabulation, the board had received 1 protest ballot totaling 100% of the total service charges to be levied, of which 100% were in favor of the change of the service charge rate and 0% was in opposition. So with that, I recommend that you adopt the resolution.
I'll move the item.
Second.
Please vote.
Oops.
Oops, the screen went off.
Oh, sorry about that. Let's try it again. Unanimous vote.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
That's all of the next ones.
Item number 78 is a public hearing on the benefit category levy change and levy of an increased service charge for the assessor's parcel 249016072. This is at the southwest corner. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the same one. I apologize. Item 79, public hearing on the benefit category change and levy of an increased service charge for the parcel number 074002058 at the southwest corner of Bradshaw Road and Kiefer Boulevard within Zone 1 of County Service Area 1.
Good morning again. This is the exact same proceeding that you just went through, albeit for a different parcel. This parcel, again, this is a category change for one parcel for an AM/PM. This category change is from street lights only to enhanced street and safety lights. So the actual charge for this parcel would be increasing from $2.56 per year to $504 per year. With that, I recommend that you direct the clerk to tabulate the return protest ballot and then take further action after the results are read in.
Well, you did such a good job of counting votes a moment ago. Let's do it again.
Okay, and this ballot is representing the legal owner, California Gold Properties LP, site address 9670 Kiefer Boulevard, Sacramento. And we do have a yes vote in favor.
So with that, I would recommend that you adopt today's resolution with Section 2 reading that the board had received 0 written protest, and Section 3 reading that the board had received 1 protest ballot totaling 100% of the total service charges to be levied, of which 100% was in favor and 0% was in opposition.
Are there any comments on this item?
I would move the item.
Second.
Please vote.
Unanimous vote.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
1 minute to catch up. Okay. Item number 80, the North Vineyard Station Specific Plan Development Impact Fee Program. This is the public hearing on adoption of a resolution approving the update of the Park Development Impact Fee component. The environmental document is an addendum to the final supplemental environmental impact report.
Good afternoon again. Bob Davison, Division Chief of the County Engineering Division, and this is a public hearing on the North Vineyard Station Specific Plan Development Impact Fee Program, but just an update of the park fee component. The North Vineyard Station Specific Plan financing plan was approved in 2004, and among its many recommendations was that impact fee program be implemented. That impact fee program was implemented, approved by your board, and implemented just a few months later. For several fee components, including the park component, of which is a subject of today's hearing. Over the past several years, staff has been working on updating the entire North Vineyard Station Development Impact Fee Program. And actually in December of last year, we had final capital improvement programs, and we had some initial outreach. Unfortunately, that initial outreach, the feedback we got was that the fees were too high. And they were. With that, that has caused us to go back and revise some of our approaches. The Department of Transportation has been working hard on updating the roadway mitigation and impact fee and analysis strategy for master plan areas. So with that effort is going on. However, there's an imminent need to update the park component of this program. The Vineyard Park, which Lennar, a developer, is going to be constructing as a turnkey park for the Southgate Recreation and Park District. They have just got bids on that park, and the cost for that park is more than what's in the plan. So it would not be possible to enter into an agreement, for Southgate to enter an agreement with Lennar without the plan being updated to reflect the current cost. So that's why we're here before you today with just a park fee update. So the proposed park fee is proposed to be updated to, there's actually 2 components of it. The total fee is $10,255 per dwelling unit equivalent, which for park fees, that's basically if you're looking at a single family home, that's approximately the per unit fee. Now that's made up of a fee of $8,487, which is more the traditional park fee, which that funds the basic park improvements, the turf, the irrigation, the hardscape, and then also the facilities such as ball fields, playgrounds, restrooms, some other shade structures, for example. There's also the other component. The other component, which makes up the rest of the the $10,255 fee, is for trails, the drainage parkway, detention basin, other things that are not part of the traditional park fee. However, it's just all combined in one park fee. I think it's important to explain it because when you look at the fee rate, when you compare it to other fees in the region, it's the traditional one that you need to be comparing if you're comparing apples to apples. So with that. So we had that outreach meeting in December, and we got those comments. Since then, we've also worked on, my staff worked with the Southgate Recreation Park District, and we did do some things, and actually we brought the fee down by a couple $1,000s from the fee that was initially outreached in December. And we reduced sports lighting from 99 sport lights to 50. One restroom was reduced, and actually we found a glitch in the park unit cost, and that actually brought the fee down a little bit. So with that, we are recommending the proposed fee of $10,255. It's increased from the current park fee rate, which is $6,621. And also I want to add that we've had both the initial outreach and recent outreach on this park fee. We met with the county and the BIA have a small small group meeting that they meet on a monthly basis. We presented the fee at that meeting. The BIA didn't ask us to come to the larger BIA meeting for that. We also contacted all the North Vineyard Station developers, engineers, planners, and other representatives that we know of, and we brought them in for an outreach meeting. And at that meeting, we did not receive any opposition to this fee. In addition, last month, we presented this item to the CPAC. So with that, I recommend that you, one, take action on the environmental document, and two, adopt the resolution approving the park fee update, which, if approved, the increased park fee would be effective in 60 days.
Thank you. Mr. Toley has a question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. A couple questions. Bob, then as it relates to, there are still scattered properties in the plan area that have existing zoning, AR5, AR2, maybe a smattering AR1, some AR10. I noticed in the exhibit that was attached that there was a DUE factor that was calculated for ag res and ag properties. I don't know if there's any ag 20s or 80s still remaining. But my question is then, for those, and some of those maybe folks want to put a new home on or not in the mode of, in the development, seeking to rezone. I know that even during the recession, we had folks actually reverted zoning because of the tax structure that accompanied the some of the efforts to rezone and entitle property. So the chart that was included on page 3 of the proposed new fee rates goes in for those that are typically your residential, commercial, non-residential uses. But if you could explain for me then what happens to properties that have retained their zoning, albeit that plan now has been in place for 20 plus years. Are they liable for park fees? And if so, are the rates that are applied in Exhibit A, those are what apply? And certainly there are increases, but it doesn't show on this chart. So I see you're calling Susan up.
Yeah, I'm going to bring down Susan Getz, the manager of special districts, and I believe she will be able to answer the question.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Morning, Susan.
Hi, Susan Getz, manager of special districts. Currently, the ordinance would collect building permit in ag res.
It wouldn't?
It would.
It would.
Mm-hmm.
And so are those rates increasing as well?
Yeah.
Then how come they're not in the chart?
In the fee program, yeah, this is more for, but in the ordinance, we have the chart. If you look at the impact fee table, Exhibit A, B-1,
Yeah, I've got
has
it.
all
But that's my question, though. It doesn't tell me. It just says what the equivalency is. It doesn't give me the dollar behind that. So I don't know what we're approving for AR. That's my point, Susan, is that this chart here tells me you break it out for age-restricted and non-age-restricted, and you have all these categories, and yet this B1 has ag and ag-res categories, and if we're increasing the fee for those folks, many of whom have been entitled property for probably 40 years. And I don't know if there are too many new houses being built on ag-res properties, but if we're increasing their rate as well, it should be reflected in the staff report, and it's not. I mean, it is. It's an attachment, but it's so.
Yeah. We are, with the staff report, we are not amending the fee ordinance. So chapter 16.82, I'm sorry. It's the fee ordinance for the North Vineyard Station fee program. In the fee ordinance, those categories are listed. And
So
it refers to the fee rate in place at the time when the fee rate itself is not listed in the ordinance, but the category of each zoning category that is applicable to pay the fees within the ordinance.
Okay, so let me understand this. So what we show on page 3 of the staff report, proposed new fee rates. You have a partial list there. You're saying we're not amending the fee ordinance, if I heard you correctly. So how do the new rates apply if we don't amend the fee ordinance? That's what we're doing.
The ordinance refers to the fee rate in effect at the time of building permit. So if we're inflating the rate.
Yeah.
So your question is, since we are amending the fee rates, so really we're amending the fee rate per DOE.
Right.
So based on the DOE factor, we can, these listed different zoning is the example of, so we did not list the example.
Okay, but it's not a full example. And I guess my problem is here is that if I were a member of the public or a property owner in North Vineyard Station following this, developers, we meet with them. Obviously, we give them that information. We meet with BIA. We've covered the bases there. And I'm going to be supportive of this. But as I read this, actually this morning, again, and as Bob was going through the presentation, I'm saying, well, if you're raising everybody's rates, then the staff report ought to say that very clearly and not have to go back to some chart that doesn't even give the rate. And you know, your explanation helped me follow it, but how would I know if I was going to pull a building permit to build a new house on a 2-acre parcel, what my rate was going to be?
Thank you, Supervisor Natoli.
Yeah,
that is truly just an oversight. You know, we really should have put that category in there. So
all of them. You should
right.
have, because it applies to industrial, office, parks, and there aren't any, I think, that are contemplated out there. But it doesn't say this is a partial list. It says the table shows a proposed fee rate.
Supervisor Natoli, if I could jump in. Bob, can we amend that staff report by 2 p.m. and show what all the increases are? Why don't you defer it till 2?
I think
let
that'd
us
be
list
helpful.
everything so it's clear what we're increasing, what we're not increasing.
Okay. Because I just think for transparency's sake, that would it makes sense. And you know, I know you've worked this on many months. Again, I know that we've got a park under construction. I want to thank certainly Southgate and your offices working obviously with Lennar and others we had people before us last fall, you know, expressing their strong dissatisfaction with how long it had taken to get the park out of the ground. So this is, you know, important to that whole effort, and I appreciate the work that's gone on. But if you could do that, I think it's very important. And then that information is what's available. Obviously, it hasn't been disseminated beyond a couple hours, but at least it's there for the record. So, we as board members know what we're doing to a single-family house on an ag-res parcel.
Okay, so we'll need a motion to continue this to 2 p.m. for further completion of the list of parcels that are affected.
Okay. Thanks.
Please vote.
Unanimous vote.
Okay.
Oh, that concludes
That's
your morning.
That concludes the morning. Are we ready to have a closed session?
Consent item.
Just a minute. Are we ready to have closed session immediately following this?
Yeah, yes, we are. We have a labor item. We just need to yeah.
Okay, so they're ready for us. Okay, thank you. And I'll talk to you after we close this meeting. Ms. Klinger.
I wanted a public record.
Yes. Okay. So that item 54 is dropped, and we do not have a date. When it's dropped, it means we don't have a date certain to.
I do have questions.
Okay. Karen Klinger, would you like to come to the podium?
Thank you. Is this the first time number 54 was going to be heard? This was a consent item. It was not a timed item where the public could be made aware that it is a taking basically of private property from all the way on Watt Avenue from Arden Way all the way to Whitney. And I have many questions about this. The ballots are supposed to be mailed out tomorrow. This is something that the public has a right, and those private property owners have a right to be made aware of this well in advance. So if they want litigation, if they want an attorney to be present to go over the information, they have to be made aware of it before the ballots, for God's sakes, are mailed out and a vote.
Hey, if I could say, this has been in process for more than a year. All of the property owners have been contacted and have come to meetings or had a discussion on the phone. It does not apply to residential properties on Watt Avenue.
I realize I did read that in this information, but it does affect everybody that lives in Arden Arcade, because this is like a project area. You have boundaries where you're double taxing. Kathy on Fulton Avenue, a friend of mine who passed away, was charged $1,000 for just a little beauty parlor. How many hair colors and cuts did she have to do to make up that additional $1,000? With these people, it will be quite a bit more. With small business owners, they can't compete against you, the county, who also votes, against Metro Fire, against the school at Whitney, and of course that's Whitney and Eastern. I've got to tell you, this is of great concern, and I believe with a weighted vote, you already have a preconceived win. You have the ability to make this into a win for the county where there's double taxation. Who benefits? The police department, Metro Fire, the county, but the business owners, the big business owners, yes, they benefit, not the small business owners. So I do have a lot of questions on this, and one of the attachments was not legible, not easy to read with the parcel numbers. It was blown out of proportion, so it wasn't easy to print. How many votes is the county going to poll on this portion from Arden Way all the way to Whitney? And Butano subsidized apartments. You've got special builders, contractors who actually profit from this. The old Walmart on El Camino, that's probably going to be turned into a transit station for more and more housing. The people have a right in the neighborhood to know what you are doing on Watt Avenue in our community, which you are destroying, by the way. We have become the Rancho Cordova of years past. You are dumping all of the undesirables into our neighborhood, along with businesses that just attract a different type of climate than we want. Restaurants that we feel that we deserve, the top restaurants. And what is a benefit zone? They don't show. I don't show where it identifies what the benefit zones are. What categories are they? Are there? Has this been advertised? Have you advertised this in your daily Daily Recorder or whatever that nobody watches, even you don't subscribe to it? You know, what is the process? And is this mailing for the ballot still going to be mailed tomorrow?
It's been dropped from the agenda.
I realize that. So what happens with the process, if you could help me with that?
It will be delayed to some future time that we have not determined.
Okay. And then how does the public, again, we don't even know about it until it comes on the agenda. And please make it a timed item so most people, I bet most people don't even read the consent.
This item is not the final vote on whether there would be a P-bid. This is in order to go collect signatures to see if 50% of the commercial property owners on Watt Avenue wish to partake in this.
When you have
so
a
it's
resolution,
not the final action.
Thank you. When you have a resolution for an ordinance that you're going to be signing, isn't that the first step of approval? You, the Board of Supervisors, have approved it, so then you go out for a vote, which again is an indication that the property owners have not, the small business owners. And I realize you have special interest groups that probably support this and that called in and said they wanted this, like Metro Fire and maybe the Sheriff's Department, because they benefit. This is not about representing the people. This is probably a violation of some type of a, it's a taking. Thank you very much. It's double taxation.
Okay. Thank you. Meeting's in recess. Go to closed session.